Morning, everyone. I'm behind schedule. What? There's this weird thing that happens whenever I announce a schedule. Something happens almost immediately afterward to change it. In this case, I went to the Grand Canyon, my work schedule got way busier than I anticipated, and then I've been working on a few other projects. Some that I can't show you. Look, this is the second draft of a book I wrote. To continue this curse, look, here's a list of videos I have planned for next year and, beyond. The Noya rockets will continue until, I don't know. I once guessed somewhere in 30 years, so I'm busy till 2052. Now, since Can You DIY a Mercury Atlas and the next Noya rocket are taking longer than anticipated, I've decided to make a stopgap video where I clarify some of the positions I have on things. So for example, I'm on my couch, in my house, on Earth. I'll do this by asking myself some questions, like a normal person would. Hit it, me! What's the big one that you want to get off your chest? Oh, the couch was really uncomfortable. That's not my confession. My real confession is that I take more conservative positions than I hold for my videos. I'm calling the police. Now, when I say conservative, I of course don't mean politically, obviously. What I mean is that I would take a more, I wouldn't say down-to-earth, but more down-to-earth position on things. There's a general consensus among people who talk about space that spaceflight is a worthwhile proposition, right? That's why I don't spend 10 minutes every video saying, no, space is actually good and practical. It's a given assumption that we all think to some degree that spaceflight is a worthwhile endeavor. But not everyone agrees with this. And my problem is, I've been noticing this trend where it's just, oh, you're not pro spaceflight, well, we're not going to listen to you. Well, that's not good. You want to argue for pro-space, but if you want to argue for pro-space, don't argue for Mars colonies, especially if they got someone like Elon Musk attached to them. We should instead focus on things that people will perceive as more beneficial short-term. You know, resource monitoring, going back to the moon. Even that's kind of hard to sell to some people. But, you know, I'm not saying we shouldn't go Mars colonization or O'Neill cylinders, but we should still take a step back every once in a while and ask ourselves, okay, is this a real practical solution to things? How do we get to that? This is hard to convey, I'm sorry. I'll be elaborating this more next year in the problem with pro-space, so look forward to that, unless I get hit by a truck. So what about Mars colonization? For Mars colonization, I'm ambivalent. I don't think Mars colonization is going to happen within my lifetime, so I don't care. I'm all for Mars. I'm all for Antarctic-style research bases on Mars, though. That sounds pretty cool. That's possible within my lifetime. I'm all for that. That sounds cool. My issue with Mars colonization as, hey, wow, look, a dead horse I can go beat, is rhetoric and motivations. You want to colonize Mars? Cool, give me a reason to do it. You know, start drawing up business plans. I want to build an O'Neill cylinder. Give me a reason to do it. Same logic applies. Don't go straight for the end is nigh, the sky is falling, because that's a really hard sell for a lot of people. And there's also some people who bring up weird ideas about human nature and conquest that are, those don't sit right with me. History's got a lot of things to it, and the people who use those kinds of arguments tend to see it in very black and white terms that are, I don't like that. Those are iffy, if you ask me. What about SpaceX then? On SpaceX, I'm also ambivalent. Truth be told, they're not that interesting to me anymore. I think the big problem with talking about SpaceX is Elon Musk. The guy's divisive. I don't like him. A lot of people don't like him, so that brings out weird opinions in everybody. There's also his personality cult, which is annoying and frustrating to deal with. And then there's also the SpaceX cult, which also exists. Yes, there is a separate cult that also is centered on SpaceX. There's a lot of overlap between the Elon Musk personality cult and the SpaceX cult, but I'll elaborate on this further, but there are two separate cults. The difference is the SpaceX cult will talk about how great Falcon 9 is, whereas the Elon Musk cult will, sprinkle in things about, Elon. Instead, I'll focus on what I like and don't like about SpaceX. So here's what I like about SpaceX. They proved that a private rocket company can work. They did it. It's the culmination of a lot of private rocket companies that I've talked about in Know Your Rocket, starting from OTRAG all the way up to, SpaceX. And they proved they could do it. That's awesome. That's inspiring. They've also proved that you can be quite successful with these rockets. And I think the whole first stage reuse thing is pretty neat. The ability to put crew in space is quite good. Indigenous launch capacity is always good. And you want a hot take from me? The Block 1 Falcon 9, this guy that never really flew except with Cargo Dragon, I think it's the best looking Falcon 9. I'll fight you on this, okay? I'll fight you. Again, I'm not that. SpaceX doesn't interest me that much. So here's what I don't like about SpaceX. Elon Musk. I don't think he's good as CEO of the company anymore. I think he's more of a liability at this point. Think of how many public catastrophes this guy has had in the last year. Right now, last week, or this week, whenever you're watching this, it's the second week of October, there's the whole Russia-Ukraine Starlink debacle. I don't even know what's going on with that, and I keep hearing about this guy. Stop. I've also heard that SpaceX's work culture is still awful, and that they still have high turnover rate of young engineers, that they're still required to work 80 to 100-hour weeks, and they're always on call. They're basically not expected to have a life outside of working at SpaceX because, saving humanity. How are you supposed to colonize Mars if you can't keep staff? It's a bit odd. Let's see, there's some other problems I have, and one of them is just a general problem with private spaceflight in general, which is you don't really have much public data on anything. If I go into NTRS right now, I can find schematics for the Apollo Command and Service Module. I can find Saturn V plans and schematics. I can find NLS schematics. I can find a lot of rocket designs on there. But I won't be able to find anything on Crew Dragon except bare minimum stuff that SpaceX puts out. And of the private rocket companies, SpaceX, as far as I can tell, is the most secretive, despite having such a massive fan base. What I don't like about it is it's convinced the SpaceX fandom that SpaceX is everything, even though they're not. Yeah, they have the highest flight rate right now, but that's because it's artificially inflated with Starlink, but details. A lot of what I don't like about SpaceX can be boiled down to just general Silicon Valley shadiness. What they're going down Boca Chica with Starship and the Starbase down there is kind of weird and shady. The environmental stuff going on, that's a bit of an issue. I have a problem with Starlink and mega constellations in general. Yes, I know about the Ukraine thing. Also, the Ukraine thing, I don't know. This is not an invitation to talk about the conflict in Ukraine. This is not the channel for that. Go somewhere else to argue with them. Go argue with Dylan Burns or someone like that. Also, the Mars thing. I don't like that whole colonizing Mars thing, because, come on. If you were serious about colonizing Mars, you wouldn't be talking about it the way you are. So what are you interested in, then, for space exploration? Obviously, Artemis. Really excited for that. Can't wait for Artemis 1, hopefully on November 14th. And the follow-on missions, of course. In terms of other exploration, what I'm really interested in are small bodies and the ice giants. We've only been to Uranus and Neptune once. 30 years ago. We got to go back. We got to see what these systems are really like. I'd love to see a Galileo and Cassini-style mission to Uranus and Neptune. And I know that the Decadal Survey has put a Uranus orbiter and probe on the top priority for one of the next big missions. So I would love to see one of those. It'd be great. The system is interesting. What are the moons like? We've only seen them once. So what I'm also interested in are small bodies. So, asteroids with moons, those kinds of places. There's a study I read for an impactor probe for the asteroid Chariklo, which is out past, I think, Jupiter, I think out near Saturn. They're called Centaurs, and it's got rings. I'd love to see a mission there. It's an asteroid with rings. That's awesome. I'd love to see it. I'd also like to see other just small body exploration in general. Again, we got centaurs and trans-Neptunian objects, maybe even the Kuiper Belt, or more near-Earth objects, like the Earth Trojans, which I think there's 3 confirmed Earth Trojans. So those would be really neat to go to, or just again, small bodies in general. And with the rise of CubeSats and small satellite buses, you could run a lot of low-cost missions to those. So that's more of what I'm interested in. Have you heard about this new thing, development, tech, proposal, design, event thing? Yes. Are you going to talk about this new thing? Look at the schedule. Unless there's a very, very specific reason for me to talk about this, or I'm just impulsive, I'm probably not going to talk about it. I got the schedule to uphold. What's next? Oh, no, this is just extra paper. There's nothing here. Well, that's all for this one, folks. Though I do understand the value of writing a script. This is unscripted. I've been rambling. As I've been rambling, I've come to realize that I'm rambling and I'm probably incoherent, so my clarifications probably aren't that clarifying. They probably sound worse. I've probably confused more of you on my positions on things than I have helped. We're all doomed. I figure I should do these about once a year because I keep bringing up things and I keep forgetting that you're not psychic and you can't read my mind unless... Oh, and a schedule update for the rest of this year. DIY Mercury Atlas for mid-November, and then designing a better OTRAG December 23rd, assuming nothing bad happens. And I'll be doing a live stream in 2 weeks on October 29th. I'll be live streaming a spooky space-related video game. I have a poll running. It's either SOMA or Dead Space. Right now, Dead Space is winning at about 75% of the votes. Whichever of those appeals to you more for a spooky video game, go vote there. I don't know how long the poll lasts. I hope it's still going on. And I will note, I do have some bias.